As a brand photographer, creating stunning brand photos for your clients starts way before photoshoot day itself. The most important part about brand photography is the planning process. And when I say brand photography or brand photoshoot or personal brand session, I am primarily talking about marketing photos and portraits for small business owners and solo entrepreneurs. The first thing we have to do in the planning process as brand photographers is collect information first. The worst thing you could do is probably show up at a location and just start shooting with no plan or prep at all. I have about 7 things I want to talk about today, and first we are going to talk about strategy. The key with this niche of photography is to not start with the visuals first, but to start with the strategy. The first question that I like to ask is, what are my clients' goals with their brand photos? Are they going through a website redesign? Are they launching a new service? Do they sell products, digital or physical? I also like to ask them about their life and overall business goals, and it's funny because when I ask this question, a lot of my clients are like, how is this relevant to photography? But I promise it is, because in my process, I soak up and sponge in as much information as possible up front, and I also comb through their website and any public marketing content that I can find. Then, only after I've collected the business side of things do I start looking at their visuals. So I look at their brand colors, typography. If they've worked with a designer, they might have a brand guide that I'll ask them to send to me. Other things that I ask for are, if they are doing a website redesign, is there a template or a wireframe that they're working on that I can look at? I also like to ask for social media templates or content ideas, because when they get their brand photos back, they will probably be using those photos for said social media templates, website, or marketing content. Now, this next part is optional, but it helps me get on the same page as my client visually. I will ask them to create a mood board of not only photos, but also imagery, patterns, architecture, not just portraits of things that inspire them. A good example for me of when this came in handy is I had one of my clients put together a mood board, and when she sent it to me, I noticed that a lot of the images and mood that she was posting was different from my typical editing style. That's totally fine, but that's why I had her create this mood board, because then I could say, oh, hey, I noticed this is a little bit of a different style. I can totally edit to it, but let me know if that's what you want me to do. I ended up editing in the style that she had put together in her mood board, and she loved the results. Now, the rest of the things that I'm going to mention in the planning process don't necessarily happen in order. They kind of are just all swirling around my brain while I'm on a photo shoot planning call with my client. Like, sometimes I figure out the location first, other times I figure out the props or wardrobe first. It all just depends on how the conversation flows naturally with my clients, and everyone is going to be different. Let's jump into props next. I love brainstorming props because the collection of props that your clients bring is going to be unique to them. Props really help differentiate one client session from another. And I just think it's really fun to brainstorm unique prop ideas other than just the, laptop and a mug situation that tends to be the default for business owners, especially online business owners or people who work virtually. Some questions that I like to ask to help dig into this is, what is their process? What are tools of the trade that they use with their own client? This does get trickier when people's main tool is their computer, but this is where, as the brand photographer, you can insert your expertise. A type of client that I work with a lot is website and graphic designers, and they are all visual, right? Most of the people that I've worked with start on a computer versus starting on pen and paper, but sometimes, depending on if they're comfortable with it, I'll have them sketch something out on paper just so we have a more visual representation of the work that they do on the computer. For brand designers and graphic designers specifically, a lot of them, like I mentioned earlier, will deliver a brand guide to their clients with their finished brand, right? All the logos, typography, colors, all of that good stuff. That's usually delivered in a PDF format. So for a photo shoot, what I will do is have them print off that brand guide and have it either in a binder, or if you get it printed at like Canva or FedEx, they can add the plastic binding. So it looks really nice. I'll throw a picture up here. So the key here with props is to really think about what are physical representations of their tools that I can include as props in the photo shoot. The next thing that I'm doing in brand photo shoot planning is building out the shot list. Like I said, this is kind of happening simultaneously with all of the other things going on. But what I like to do is have a list, a step-by-step list of all of the shots that I want to get the day of the photo shoot. This is also where I'll go back to the strategy questions that I asked, because let's say they are building out a new website and they need a hero image. And a hero image is the big banner photo that shows up at the very top of the website. If I can see the website template and I can see, oh, okay, this template, they have text on the left, that means I should probably provide options where there's negative space or blank space on the left side of a photo so that you can read the text and maybe they're off to the right third of the photo. If you've watched my previous videos on brand photography, you've probably seen that I like to deliver a variety of compositions anyway. Having them composed off to one third or the other is one of the usual flows that I go through. If there's something that they specifically say like, hey, I need this, I make sure to include it on my shot list. Other ideas are if they're launching something or if they're celebrating like a business anniversary, then I'll say, oh, okay, we should probably get like a celebratory shot, either with confetti or, pouring a glass of champagne, something like that to indicate celebration. As I am going along building out the shot list, the next thing that I'm considering is wardrobe. While I am building out the shot list and choosing the props, I'm also thinking about the level of formality of their wardrobe. Some people are super casual, some people will be super like business professional. Most of the time we want a range of options between like casual and formal. For a website hero image, they probably need to be dressed a little more formally. Maybe it's a blazer with denim or a full-on suit, or whatever their definition of formal is. But for social media content, for Instagram stories, stuff like that is usually a little bit more casual. So that's why I like to get into this with my client and ask like, hey, what would you normally wear to meet with the client? What would you normally wear if you were hosting a workshop or presenting something? And that is how I start planning out the wardrobe options. I'm also thinking about colors around this time, and this is why I ask for the brand guide so that I can say, okay, what are your brand colors and how can we use your wardrobe to incorporate some of those colors? Now, at the same time, I'm also thinking about location notes. Location really varies depending on the client. I, as a photographer, like to return to the same locations, but I strategically choose locations that I can customize on my own. My old studio, the Sunlight Space, I designed it such that it's super modular, so you can design vignettes, you can pull like a couch from here, a wall decoration from here, and really customize the colors based on the client. I like to return to the same places because I'm familiar with it. I know where everything is. I just feel like it makes me feel more prepared and professional as the brand photographer. So I typically have a list of locations that I will recommend, but a lot of the times my clients will have an idea for a location. This is definitely another area where you need to use your expertise as the brand photographer. Just because a place is pretty doesn't mean it strategically makes sense for your client. So if they are proposing a location, we just want to make sure like, yes, this is aligned with your brand, or no, I don't think a beach makes sense for you, even though you love to go to the beach. A beach doesn't really make sense for your brand. You never talk about it. Sometimes it's just not aligned, right? Now, as I'm collecting the strategy, business goals, all of that information up front, sometimes I will know exactly where the photo shoot should be. Other times, I might have a couple of ideas, or I might have notes on the mood or vibe of the space, but I do sometimes have to go and do my own location scouting. When this happens, when I don't immediately have location ideas, I tell my client on the planning call, like, hey, I have some ideas and notes for locations. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna go do some research and do some location scouting, and then I'll come back and present you with a couple of ideas based on what I found, and then we'll go from there. Now, in this process, when you do finalize a location, you'll probably have more specific shot ideas. Like, let's say you go rent a studio and you're like, I really like this piece of furniture or this background here. Then I'll go in and make more specific notes on the shot list and say, hey, like, we want standing or leaning against the wall here. We want this prop in this place. We want to wear this outfit in this backdrop. Once you have the location, the rest of it all really comes together. Once I've figured out wardrobe, location, props, shot list, and make sure that all of those things are in line with my client's goals, the end result is a document that I call my photo shoot action plan that I show to the client, and that's what I take with me into photo shoot day so that we know exactly when we're doing what. We're going to do this shot in this outfit with these props in this backdrop. I do like to be very organized, but with that said, the most important thing to remember during the photo shoot planning process is to leave room for magic. As organized and prepared as I like to be, what happens like 99% of the time is our favorite photo ends up being something totally unplanned, and it just comes to you on the shoot day. Once you're at the location, once you see all of the props, you're gonna get struck with inspiration. That's when my creativity really takes off. I love to have the plan because it provides me with the structure that I need, but making sure that I have not packed, 3 whole hours back to back to back of shots, I make sure to leave, 30, 45 minutes of space to play around and to have that creativity. Here's an example from my own brand photo shoot. This backdrop, the props, and my outfit were all totally unplanned. We just had all the stuff out that day and said, hey, wouldn't this be cool? And it ended up being one of my favorite photos. I know this is a lot of information, but this is the process that I take every single one of my brand photography clients through when they book with me. If you want the full behind the scenes of how I run my photo shoot planning calls, of the templates and emails that I use, exactly how I create my shot list, and the behind the scenes of the photo shoot itself, you can get on the waitlist for my course, Break into Brand Photography. In this course, I am seriously giving you everything that I use in my own business, so I'll leave the link down below. Now, if you're wondering more about locations and some of the other aspects that I consider before choosing a location for a brand photo shoot, stay tuned for my next video where I am sharing 4 unexpected things to look for when choosing a location. I'll see you there.